Yeah, I think there's probably two sides of that too, Todd. In that if you sat there and you watched the program and every clay burst and broke up in the air, that might be a little unrealistic to some people. But especially in sporting clays, I think, it seems to be a more adaptive to network television.
I agree completely, and I think it's good, happy. Excuse me. What makes me happy is, when I was a kid, I remember, the American Sportsman with Kurt Gowdy was on Saturday afternoons, actually in prime time. And then we saw a decline of TV shows. And now, thanks to cable, we're seeing a proliferation of hunting and shooting shows on cable. And that's encouraging to me. So hopefully in the future, things are looking good for us.
Yeah, and I'll only add to that this much, that because we are basically, you can find us on the internet anywhere in the world, that we have probably 65 to 70% of our listeners are outside the country. In some countries where shooting isn't even going on, but we're getting emailed. So the internet, I think, is helping a great deal in this sport. And I don't want to.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell on that, but I'm sure that you're probably aware of it. But you did touch on something a minute ago that interested me. Besides the shooting, how much of your instruction is on the mental side?
Well, it's becoming more and more. That's always been kind of a black box thing for people. In fact, next month, I'll be in Dallas, Texas, working with Lanny Basham, and I would assume a number of your listeners, anybody in the shooting world knows Lanny Basham, who's an Olympic gold medalist in rifle shooting, who started a company, Mental Management, in Dallas. And Lanny and I work together a lot now with a very interesting concept that I'm working on the technical side, Lanny's working on the mental side. But what we've done is we're working together and syncing up our skills to work with a client. And it's been very beneficial. What we've seen come out of that, the progress that shooters have made has been unbelievable. So Lanny's doing some very interesting work. He's certainly helped my game in the last couple of years. He has taken what I've done and taken it up to another level as far as my performance on the ski field. So I'm becoming more and more involved in teaching the mental side because I'm getting to know more about it. A lot of that thanks goes to Mr. Basham.
Yeah, well, that's good. You certainly have met them all over there, and we've had very many pleasant conversations with them. I find that you're absolutely correct. There's more and more attention being brought to that. I know that there's another gentleman in the UK, Henry Hopking, and he recently did a lot of work with our now NSCA national champion, Gavin Miles, and helped him prep for that. And we've had him on the show, and certainly the mental side of this is coming more into focus now than it probably ever has, and it probably should have always been addressed, and we never really gave it enough thought. And I'll bet in your instruction now, especially since you've been spending some time with Lanny, that this is more and more important. I mean, once you learn to shoot, the mental side of it is probably the difference between perhaps someone like yourself and someone who's just entering the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And the mental aspect of the game has been largely ignored, again, because people didn't really understand it or thought it was kind of hocus pocus kind of stuff. And one of Lanny's favorite sayings is actually right, is I think people are now starting to get more into it because if you don't, you're going to be trampled. If you take a guy who has a very sound technical game and also has a very sound and near perfect mental game, you're not going to beat that guy. Day in and day out, over the long run, a guy who's technically perfect and mentally sound is going to be a very difficult guy to beat. And I think people are starting to realize that, and almost out of necessity are having to address the mental side of the sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you see it, and we see it quite a bit because we like to film different events, and we'll have cameras on people, and so we actually have the pleasure of seeing people from all levels of shooting, exactly what they do when they enter that station. And we have noticed that the top shooters definitely clear their mind and maybe take a deep breath and just focus in on what they're doing. And then we notice other shooters who step in there like it was another day in the field and they're just waiting for a bird. And
and of course they may be doing something too. Everybody's mental programs are different. Some people get more involved, kind of like me. And some people almost look like they're not thinking. But generally, you're right. You can see someone think. You can see someone not think. But of course, there's a fine line there. You can do too much thinking,
right.
and that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to figure out how not to, as Lanny would say, over-try
right.
or under-try and just not care. And there's a happy medium there that we're all trying to find.
Okay. Well, tell us about some of the clients that you have, if that's okay. If you don't think that'll make them uncomfortable, do you have some names that you can drop on us?
I don't know if they'd be people you know. I do have a lot of clients. I guess if you're looking for high-profile guys, I've worked with a number of NFL players. I've worked with people. I've worked with all sorts of people. So I couldn't even start to tell you.
Okay.
I've had some fascinating clients, so I can tell you that.
Okay. Now you brought up the NFL. Now, aren't you going? You're part of that NFL shoot this year, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm going to the NFL has an alumni. We have a number of alumni events during the Super Bowl week, and they always have an alumni sporting clay shoot. And of course, it's in Miami this year. And I've been invited to go. I'm pretty excited about that. So I'll be down there in 2 weeks. And as far as I know, I'm shooting on a team with Dave Butts, who's big with the NRA, and also Jack Youngblood, who I watched play as a kid when I lived in L.A. when he played for the Rams. So I'm pretty excited about that. That should be a very fun week. And I'm also very excited. I used to live in New Orleans for 15 years, so go Saints.
Yeah, well, we know Dave. Actually, we've shot with Dave. I've personally shot with him a couple of times. Had him down to San Antone for the Kids and Clays thing last year. He's a lot of fun. We shot with him again at Homestead. You probably have been there.
Yep.
And he's one of those guys who's really a lot of fun to shoot with, and he's a good shot.
Well, I better brush up. I haven't had a shotgun in my hands for a little bit, so I'm going to have to shoot a little bit when I get home before I lay down there, so I don't look bad.
I don't think anybody's going to believe that, but it's very modest of you to say it anyway. Okay, so next on your schedule then, when you leave Dubai, where are you going?
I've got a quail hunt with the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, and I'll be down there. They bring people, CEOs in from all around the country, so we get them, make sure they're going to have a good time shooting quail, and get them shooting some sporting clays. And I'll head straight down to Miami and do that event. And then for the next 4 months, I'm pretty much on the road teaching nonstop. When we were setting this up, I told you, I really don't have a free day in the next 4 months, that if I'm not teaching, I'll be flying to another city. So I'm pretty loaded up. And then, of course, my season will start in May. Even though I do teach year-round, I'll pull back on the coaching a little bit when the Skeet season starts and shoot competitively from May to October to the World Championships. Okay, all right. Now, it sounds like you have a busy schedule. Is it possible to schedule time with you? It's not easy. I can tell you right now, I'm pretty much fully booked until July or August. That would be my next free day. I've got probably 80% of my clientele is repeat. So they kind of know the program. So, and every city that I go to, I've probably been to that city on that weekend for the last 10 or 15 years, that particular club. So people know my schedule. They can find it on the internet at my website, which is bendershima.com. And people know where I'm going. And when I have spare time, we try to work in people as best we can. Okay, all right. Well, good. Tell us tell us a little slower now. What's the website again? bendershima.com. Spell the Sheamer part. Bender, B-E-N-D-E-R S-H-I-M-A. John Shima is my partner that I've worked with since we were in college together at Trinity University in San Antonio. Oh, okay. So Bender Shima has been our business for the last 25 years, and hence the website bendershima.com. Also on that website, there is a ton of information about shooting skeet as far as what we do in clinics. I've been writing articles about the sport. I write for 3 magazines around the world, so I've been writing articles for 15 years, and there's a bunch of old articles that have been archived on that site. So there's a lot of information there that can help shooters if you're looking for a little bit of edge in the game of skeet, or just shotgun shooting principles in general. Okay. Well, let me ask you this question, and I don't know if even at your level you have any, or whether you need them, but do you have sponsors, Todd? Yes, I do. Krieghoff, obviously, also Remington Arms, and High Def Specs.